Hey, good morning. Byron on the rooftop. We're going to look at a roof leak situation today. Two-story ranch-style home in Highlands Ranch. I like to set my ladder up just out of the way of the garage doors in case somebody decides to open up the door and zoom out while I'm up on the roof. Let's take a look. So when we first get on the roof, we want to be looking at anything we see that's unusual. This is unusual. This is a ridge flap shingle just laying here on top of the house. This would be one of these lap shingles. Not great. Bird poop. Oh, there we go. Okay, we've got an opening here. Look at this. We got a hole right through there, and this is wide open. So we'll just keep our eye peeled, keep looking around. Here's one chimney. He said it was leaking a little bit, similar to the neighbor's house. So we're gonna look for obvious things. I'm gonna check the roof flashing. This one is unlikely to leak because there's no pooling effect going to be around this chimney. I'll step up this ridge. You can see how we've got a little bit of a rise here in the middle. That's good, so water will not tend to pool. It'll tend to direct itself off. They did this one a couple years ago. You know, actually, their chase cover does not go wide enough right there to truly direct the water over that brick. So it's going to end up pooling on this mortar seam right here. If you can look down, it's not truly going to drip off. It's going to pool on this ledge and run right along here and test. Maybe there's a failure of this joint. This joint happens to look good, so I doubt that that's leaking, but we'll keep our eyes peeled for more of this type of stuff here. Yeah, again, I probably would have run the chase cover wide enough to cover over this brick. See how this chase cover is a little short? I know they were trying to cover the upper brick, but this is the brick that functionally is going to get tested with the water coming off. So if you guys do that, I'd go bigger if this was your job. Here's one that they say was leaking. We did this chase cover a few months ago. We've had a lot of rain, and they said, hey, it's starting to drip again. They took a video of it dripping on the firebox down low in the home. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. Hey, nice view. Always take a minute to enjoy your view. Over here, another fireplace. Looks like this would be for the furnace, not a fireplace. They abandoned the fireplace and put a open style, well, they did a furnace on it. So anyways, those are the three we're gonna take a look at. I'll go ahead and take the tarp off of this one and we'll see what's cooking. Actually, quick side note, this is a B vent for a furnace, and if you look at the top, it's been crushed in. So something to note is if it gets crushed in too far, you'll actually limit the amount of air that can exit this cap. So it might be time to replace that cap because it's meant to be crowned up, and boy, does that thing look like someone took a... So our chase cover sticks over the sides. That's good. It makes the water come off the top, drip free of the structure. We got a little bit of pooling. It's a little more flat than I'd like, but it should be acceptable as far as keeping water out. This has a 2-inch high. This has a 2-inch high collar up underneath, so this silicone seal is not necessary. But we had to come out and put this on at one point. So there's something mysterious here. We'll keep looking. It's coming around the side of that same chimney chase. I'm just inspecting the stucco to see if there's, you know, stucco is not waterproof, and water will absorb through it. I'm looking here at this corner, and it's not sealed there real well, whatever the stucco product is. So that's just something to be aware of. Down here, the color coat didn't quite seal there. They've got some flashing, not the most beautiful flashing underneath there. You've got a counter flashing. Again, he said when he put a tarp over it, stopped the leak. So that's what's kind of mystifying me. I was thinking he had a leak around the cricket on the uphill side. Remember, any chimney wider than 30 inches has to have a cricket per code. So we've got a good little overhang here. Seems like someone's jammed everything full of sealant at least. They have a step flashing, it's called, where they have different individual pieces. You can see these little joints right up here on this wall. And right there, that's called a step flashing. They put them one by one over every shingle. Kind of see it underneath here, underneath here. So again, we're just examining a little bit of a hole in there, actually. A little bit of a hole underneath. Right back in there I can see in. But again, how much water is a good question. Is getting in there possibly. Okay, armed with our complement of multi-tip screwdriver, utility knife, drill with multiple bits, we're going to go ahead and loosen up the storm collar, cut this sealant off, cut that sealant off, take the sealant off all the screws, and go ahead and take a look underneath. We're going to put some cardboard underneath here and over on this side to tent it up, make it a little higher. Well, as I start to remove the sealant, I can see there is rust inside here. There's a lot of moisture, sign of decay already like happening in here underneath my, yeah, see that red material in there? Underneath my storm collar. So my storm collar was not sealed well. Somehow moisture got in here, so I'll just keep taking it apart. So now, having removed the silicone, I've lifted up the storm collar, bring this up so we can see inside here. Don't like what I'm seeing there. Looks like this is definitely pulled down a little bit. We're relying on this seal right here, and look right there. If the water were to build up, it could go in through that seam and down. So we'll keep investigating. Now, looking underneath the chase cover, I see our team member had put sealant underneath here. Lots of little moths in here, and kind of got some openings in here, which is normally fine. We need to beat this back down. Plywood, that's good. They got 3/4 plywood up there. And then down here, not sure what we're gonna see down there, but we want to put like a piece of plywood or cardboard up here to create a tenting effect so that this thing will tent off. Over here, a little bit of that sealant underneath, more moths flying around. Again, not seeing like a huge and obvious anything except right around the storm collar. I had a paper thin bead of sealant around the storm collar, so that might have been an issue bringing it around. That's what caused this water ring in just 3 months. So we'll take a look at that. And then I had to come back down for just a minute because my chocolate latte was down here. So back on the roof, we've gone ahead and put some cardboard down here and put a screw in it to secure it. A little bit hard to get underneath there and do it, but we've added pieces right here all the way around this opening so that it'll shed and tent that chase cover and the water will shed off the sides. So I'm not sure if you guys have ever had a situation that's happened to me, which is where you put a screw in and you miss. So you're only going into the sheet metal and it strips out the sheet metal and you can't back your screw out. So I've got that situation over here. Let's take a look at a little cowboy trick to get that screw out. So what we have over here is, you may not be able to see them from your angle, but there's 3 screws here. 2 hit wood and this one did not. So I put this on top and it just spins round and round. So I take a knife blade, put it underneath, and it provides a little bit of backing for the thread, and it'll back right out. So that's the cowboy trick to how to get a screw out. Ships of putting a chase cover on is trying to get that bow in the top. So now what I've done is added that cardboard underneath. As we slowly lower down, you can see there's a crown on the top now. Let's take it. So over here, I was able to put a pretty good crown on it. I think that water will shed right off of the screw head. Of course, we're gonna put sealant on there. There, you can see that bow up. We didn't have that before. And then right over here, I was really struggling. These screws were putting a dish back in the top, and this was gonna create a pool. So I went around to the side. I don't normally like to do this. This is the backyard though. And what I did is I pulled downwards real hard here, and I got that to crown on the top and come over. And then I put a screw in here, so I'm relying on the shear value of the screw rather than the pull or thread value of the screw. And I was able to pull that down, and now water's gonna go right over this edge. So again, you get out in the field. I didn't have to do it on any of the other sides, but sometimes you just gotta have these little tips and techniques to try and get where you need to go. The rust stain here is from the old chase cover rusting out. Now in this case, I'm starting to reassemble everything. I'm gonna leave this open underneath here so that water can breathe and get out from underneath this, not get trapped. I've got it crowned, so I know that if water blows underneath, it's gonna come out. I know if water blows underneath, it's gotta blow up 2 inches before it gets to the pipe. I'm gonna put a good seal around this. I'm gonna reconnect our storm collar here. So what I do when I attach these is just make sure my storm collar is seated down, little left-right action. I've taken a razor blade and cleaned up the edge. It may not look very good, but it's pretty clean compared to what it was. Hold the nut with one hand and run the drill with the other. Just before it tightens up, just make sure it's going to engage. Sometimes you got to pinch the bottom a little. Make sure this thing's nice and snug. And then the sealant just kind of covers the last little bit of it. And I don't use a screwdriver very much if I can help it. Looks like we got a little bit of motion here because I forgot to put a screw through the collar. So we'll go ahead and take it back apart, and then I'll put that little screw in, that little pinhole. And that will allow us to keep this pipe from shifting in the wind. The customer will complain about issues. So I'll just put a little screw right here to keep the pipe from shifting around. This is a double wall direct vent system. So that is just going into the outer air chamber, which is no problem at all. When it comes to screws, I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with this Milwaukee pack out kit, but this is the 4-inch thick one. There's like a 1.5-inch thick one. I don't recommend it, it's just too thin. But these little guys allow you to sort all your screws. I've got my screws with anchors, 1/4-inch bolts left over from roof braces. I have stainless steel 1/4-inch head, very handy. And then I've got these pan heads by 3/4. Usually, here we go. I've got pan heads by 1 inch, which is good for putting those screws down on chase covers. And we've switched over to the Torx head, the T25, so we do those a lot. So I have my 3-inch, my 1.5 inch, and then these are my favorite screw in all the world. If you ever want to buy me a Christmas present, it's a 3/8 head Spax, S-P-A-X screw, 2 inches long. And the beauty of these is they're threaded all the way to the head. You'll notice that even on these screws, they're not threaded all the way to the head. So if you're trying to go into plywood or any type of thin building material, these screws will not function because they do not have any grip near the head. This allows us to do roof anchors down into plywood for chimneys. And then I have the complement of the stainless steel screw. This is the 1/4-inch head for interior stove screws. So that's a little picture of what we're doing. We're going to grab a couple more of these for the chase cover. I had to use a couple extra screws, a couple of these, and we're off to the races. Applying the sealant is important. I nip the tip off of my silicone at a certain size bead that's most helpful, and we're going to apply it right along this joint right here. And we'll you have to mechanically smooth it out. You cannot just do this with the tip. You've got to smooth it out as well. So as I come around, it's a nice warm day. I'm getting a nice thick bead on there. And I like to just chase that seam a little bit, just in case a little bit of water might want to go up there. And I'm kind of pushing it down into the joint where there is a gap. There's not always a gap. And then put that there. I always have my rag. It's got water on it. And I take my finger, usually a gloved hand is best, and I just artfully paste it on without just smearing my finger across it, without any intelligence whatsoever, because that'll smash you down and make it feather thin. That may have been what happened before. So I can make it feather thin on the tops. I just have to just gently bring this up, but I want that mass and bulk to remain in the middle, and I want the sides to seal. And so I'm just going to work that around like that. Just takes just a minute, but it is basically a requirement to do that, or you don't really get a good bond. And for these screw heads here, you may or may not be able to see them. We're just going to make sure they have a nice dollop on them. I kind of go around and I work this in with the tip like I'm decorating a cake, and that swirl is the mechanical adhesion. So I am swirling, and I did wipe this off real good earlier. There we go. And I'll show you what that kind of looks like in a close-up. It looks like a swirl of cake frosting, and it's really nice. I've swirled it several times mechanically to kind of bond it to the surface. And that one I don't necessarily have to put my finger in, but if I wanted to, I can kind of additionally with a little bit of moisture, I can kind of smooth this out, make it real pretty. If you don't have moisture on your finger, a little bit of glass cleaner, it will it'll kind of smear all over your finger. So that's kind of what they look like done. That will not leak. You've got years and years left on the life of that screw head right there. All right, so here's my final product. We're gonna leave it as this. We've got our crown at the top. We've got our storm collar that's sealed at the top, open at the bottom to let air and moisture out when it gets captured. We've got all our screws down, nice crown. We're gonna put a little bit of sealant on the couple spots we found around the base. And then just looking real quick, something very practical about the tools, you know, how we do the work. Let's take a look here. I had a lot of extra silicone that I had to take off. So what do you do with that? How do you get it down off the roof? I just take my rag that had the silver silicone you can see there that I wiped my fingers on, and we're just gonna bundle that up in a little basket. Always check for tools. Found a little multi-head underneath here of mine. Over here, I put my caulking gun in such a way that the hook is holding on the ridge. And then my drill has a belt clip, it's hooked on the ridge, and then you can stack everything else on top of that and it won't slide down off the roof. So just a quick pro tip on that. Last thing, we're gonna take a look over here and see if the opposing side might have a hole accounting for the leak in that one, and I think that'll wrap up today. Okay, so now we're on top of the second chase cover. There's the first one we fixed over there. Here's the one he said did just get replaced and by another company, and yet it's still leaking. So I look here, this is really good. The way I test these is I flex this just by lifting a little on it, and this doesn't even break. That's a really good polyurethane. I could put my nail into it. It's soft. It's a direct vent gas fireplace. There's his inlet and his outlet air. Down here, the seal looks good right here, and I've checked all the way around. And then I checked this joint, as I showed you earlier. We know that this chase cover is pushing water onto this brick, testing these joints, but all the joints look good. So where's the leak? So I went around and slowly looked, and now I'm over here, and I found two big gaping holes on this side. And you can see my new silver sealant coming up. You masons in the crowd will hate me for that, but it's a quick fix. And so I know that the water is pooling, running off. We know that it's not extended further than the brick, so it's going to test all these joints. And what's occurring is it's definitely going right through here, probably going down 10 feet, hitting a fire stop. You know, it's going through the brick onto the wood framing, and then hitting a fire stop, going sideways, hitting the pipe over here. Then it runs down and drips on top of the unit. So that's our working theory right now. All right, now this one's interesting. This is the far side. We're thinking about maybe a new chase cover altogether because it doesn't have a drip lip down the side. It's all wavy. They've ripped out probably a factory built wood burning fireplace, judging by the 12-inch diameter, probably an air cooled factory built, and put in a furnace. So maybe down into the basement, and they remodeled, ripped out a fireplace on the first floor. So they said this one, they're also hearing dripping down low. So I got up here and looked, and there's like a chalky substance down here that's coming out underneath a very strong, like a polyurethane. It's very strong. So you can see that's the substrate on the bottom. Somebody covered over the problem, put this on. It's delaminated coming off. So we're gonna clean that up, put a nice fresh start on there, wipe it with the rag, and then get a nice coating on there. The rust on top eventually will need to be dealt with. We'll just rub it off for now. May put a little bit of sealant on there. It'll probably peel off, but get them a little bit longer down the road. And in our last third chase cover that had the furnace vent, taking a look at the final product. Got a nice big 1-inch bead all the way around that thing where the flex happens between the chase cover and that chimney pipe. There's no storm collar, so we're trying to make that work. I think we might want to go ahead and offer him a chase cover. Looking down the chase itself, it is stuccoed. Down here I found a pencil-sized hole in the flashing on the uphill side. That's not good. Step flashing, so I filled it. And then step flashing all the way down, found another pencil-sized hole there, and found another pencil-sized hole there. So somewhere in this process, customers complaining about dripping, leakage. I think those are the things that we'd recommend based on what we can see on this chase cover and this chimney chase itself. Nothing really on this side. Possibility down there, I guess, of that smaller roof. If that's not flashed correctly, there might be an issue there. I see that the water that dams up here does run down. You can see the staining coming down and then testing the joint right there. So just things to be looking at. Otherwise, I think we're pretty close to finishing this.